Hey friends, today we will discuss basic things of valuation of real estate. So, in which we will discuss what is cost, price, and value, and we will then discuss about the various types of value which a valuer should know for its profession, and then we will discuss other things related to valuation of real estate. What is property? How the demand and supply factors affect the value of a property, and various other things related, which are very important for day-to-day work of the valuer. So first thing which a valuer should be clear in his mind is the difference between cost, price, and value. So what is cost? So basically cost, it is the amount of money required to produce or acquire a property. So it is the amount of money required to produce or acquire a property. So let us suppose you want to construct a property. So what do you need? You need materials, you need labor, and you need land acquisition. So the cost of material, cost of labor, and then the cost of land acquisition, all these things add up to the cost of construction of the building. So if we say that if it cost rupees 20 lakh to build a house, that is cost of the building. It means cost of material, cost of labor, and cost of land acquisition, along with other certain cost. They add up to, and that is the cost of building a house. So that is cost. Cost is basically money required to produce or acquire a property. So now, what is price? Price is money, an amount of money a buyer is willing to pay for a property. So let us suppose that buyer want to buy this property. Of course, the seller will try to sell the property for more than 20 lakhs so that he have a certain profit out of it. But the buyer buyer will try to purchase it at the lowest cost. So the amount of money which he is willing to pay, that is the price of the property. So how, how it is determined? It is determined by market conditions, demand and negotiation between buyer and the seller. So if the market conditions are such that supply is more and supply of the such buildings is more, but the number of buyers are less, then of course the price will be very near to 20 lakh. But if the supply is less and buyers are more, so the price will be much higher than 20 lakh. So you must understand the difference between cost and price. So if we say that if a house is listed for sale, so let us suppose that the person who constructed the building for 20 lakh, he has listed it for sale at 25 lakh. That is the price of the property. Then next is value. So knowing cost and price, now we will discuss what is value. So value is basically depends upon person to person. Person to person means how useful a property is for a particular person. If it is more useful for him, he will be ready to pay higher price. But if it is not useful for him, he will not pay its worth. So basically its definition, as far as definition is value of valuation is concerned, it is worth of the property based upon its utility, benefits and desirability. See here. So these things which makes a difference for person to person, how it is useful for a particular person, how it is beneficial for a particular person, and whether he desire to buy this property. So it will depend, that will lead us to the term which is value. So it is of subjective nature. So as we have discussed, that it vary from individual perspectives, and basically it is future benefits anticipated from owning a property. So when a person buy a property, he want to know how much future benefits he will derive from this property. So that is value. So example, a buyer might value a house for 27 lakh because of its location, amenities, and potential for appreciation. So we will discuss different types of values. As far as a valuer is concerned, he must know most of the types which he may have to use at certain point of time. So if we see the difference in a tabular form, so first call is the term, second column gives price, third column refer to cost, and fourth is the value. First thing is definition or meaning. So price as we have discussed, it is amount paid for acquiring any product or service. And cost is the amount incurred in producing and maintaining something. And whereas value is the utility of a good or service. See here the difference between these three terms: cost, price, cost, and value. So, how we ascertain? See, this is the most important thing. Ascertainment. You are mostly related with this term, ascertainment. Price is ascertained from consumer's perspective, whereas cost is ascertained from producer's perspective, and value is ascertained from user's perspective. And how it is estimated? Price, it depends upon the policy of the company, how he decide about the price of a product. So it is through policy. And cost, it is through fact, that how much money has been spent upon building that asset. And value is through opinion, it is not a fact. Cost is a fact. See the difference, this is most important thing. Cost is a fact, but value is not a fact, it is an opinion, it depends upon person to person. So next is impact of variation in the market. So how the variation in market will affect the price of product increase or decrease. So similarly, cost cost depends upon the input. If and the price of inputs may rise or fall, and this may affect the cost. And then value, basically value remains changed. Why? Because value is usefulness for a particular person. So usefulness will remain same for that particular person. Money. So price, of course, we calculate the price in terms of money. Similarly, we calculate the cost in terms of money. But value basically it cannot be calculated in terms of money. How useful a property is for a particular person, you cannot calculate that in terms of money. But for a quantitative perspective, it can be calculated in terms of money. Then past, present, and future, this is most important thing. Price is amount agreed upon by both buyer and the seller for a goods or service, and it is subsequently paid. First they decide, and then the price is paid by the buyer. And cost, see here the important thing. Cost is past history. This is most important thing. Cost is past history, whereas value embraces future. So this is the most important thing which now we will discuss. Value is the present worth of the future enjoyment of the property. So you are buying the property today. So it's useful. You will use it this property in future. So it is the present worth. It is amount which you have paid to for buying this property. Why? For future enjoyment of the property. So that is value. So this is the difference between cost, price and value. And as a value, you must be very clear between these three, the difference between these three things. So now we will discuss different types of value. First type of value is theoretical value. This is the most basic things. So let us suppose you want to value a building. So you know building consists of two parts. First part is land and second part is the building constructed over its land and building. You calculate the value of the land, you calculate the depreciated replacement cost of the building, you add both of them. So that is theoretical value of the building. So it is mathematical value of worked of for the property. Next is economic value. It is a measure of benefit that an economic actor can gain from the property and is generally measured in terms of currency. So how much break-up value? So let us suppose if in a factory it is to be sold, if it it's different machineries are sold separately, real estate part is sold separately, each and every item is sold separately, then it is called breakup value. So when any established production unit is closed down and sale of each individual asset is planned separately, it is termed as breakup value of the property. So value of each asset is estimated separately in isolation of other assets. So machinery and building may be sold separately to the different parties. And then rounded value, it is just rounding of the value you have calculated. Let us suppose you work out the value of the property as 12,98,800 and you round up it as 13 lakh. This is known as rounded value. Then salvage value and scrap value. So see there are two things. One is economical age of the building, and second thing is physical age of the building. So when you construct a new building after certain period of time, you have to do certain maintenance, and as the age goes on increasing, maintenance cost goes on increasing. A time will arrive, then the maintenance cost will be much higher that if you reconstruct the building, it will be easier, it will be most economical if you reconstruct the building instead of maintaining it or rebuilding. If you rebuild the building, so after certain period of time, then when it is not economical to use that property, we say that economic life of the building has come to an end. And of but still it can be used, though it cannot be used economically, but still it can be used. But after certain period of time, a time will arrive that you cannot use the property anymore. that we say that its physical is has come, that its has come to an end, that this property can now be used anymore. So if the property has lived its economical life but still it can be used, if you sell that property, then we say that you have got salvage value. So salvage value is the estimated amount that can be recovered from an asset at the end of its useful life. So the value consider that assets remaining functionality and potential resale value. See here, assets remaining functionality and potential resale value. But when it reach this stage, that after that we cannot use the building safely anymore, that scrap, then we say that if you, then the value of the property will be called scrap value. So scrap value refers to the value obtained from selling an asset's material or components. So here, see here, you are selling material or components of the building when it is no longer functional. See here, it is still having some functionality left, but in scrap value, it the building is the asset is no longer functional, and you sell its different materials and components, then we call that value what you got, that is scrap value. So scrap value will depend upon material component. So if your building is of constructed of steel, of steel building, in case of industrial building, a steel building, so of course you will get higher scrap value as compared to RCC buildings. So it will depend upon scrap material composition, then recycling and disposal cost. So costs associated with recycling or disposing of the assets part can affect the scrap value. And third thing, market demand for scrap. So fluctuations in common commodity prices and market conditions can impact the scrap value. So basically, you must know the difference between salvage value and scrap value. So, when you sell the property, when you calculate the value of the property, when it is still having some functionality remaining in the property, and you have to calculate its potential resale value, then it is called, you have calculated the salvage value, that it has lived its useful life. First thing is it has lived its useful life, but still it has left with some remaining functionality. But see here, in case of scrap, it is no longer functional, and if you calculate the value at that condition, then we say that we have calculated the scrap value. The next is sentimental value. It is also called personal value. So when the value is of the property is determined based upon sentimental grounds rather than considering market forces, we say that we have calculated sentimental value. Maybe that a seller, he is living in this house for the last 50, 60 years, and there are certain sentiments attached to it, and he is not ready to sell it property even at a higher price due to sentimental attached to the property. So it may be special price, it may be fancy price due to sentimental attachment to the property. So he may, but the purchaser may purchase a property at a very high price due to sentimental attached to the property. So it will depend upon the purchaser or the buyers how they react. Then next is stigma value. So let us suppose in a property, first if Mr. A's family was residing and all the members of his family died all of a sudden. Then Mr. B purchased the same property and the same his family also met with the same fate. So for such properties there will not be more number of buyers because of a stigma attached to it that anybody living in this building may lose his family. So any type of stigma, if it is attached to the building, so its value will be reduced. In that case, the value is called stigma value. So it is an estimate of price of property based upon the assumption of unwilling purchaser for such a property. Maybe through any of stigma attached to the property. It may be due to belief or suspicion that the plot was used as a burial ground or cremation ground in the past, or that the land is affected by radioactivity due to past economic reactor working on the plot, or any stigma attached to the building. And next is value in exchange. So if the value is not exchanged in terms of money, if it is exchanged in terms of goods, services. So it is a fundamental principle in economics that real estate, where the value of an asset is often assessed based upon its potential to be exchanged for other goods or service or money. So in real estate, for example, value in exchange of a property is influenced by the factors like location, market demand, and condition of the property. This is different from the terms value in use. We will discuss what is value in use. Next is accommodation value. So what is accommodation value? See here, this plot A, it is surrounded by four plots B, C, D and E. Now the owner of the plot cannot go to the road. Either he has to pass through the property of A, or he has to pass through the property of B, C, or he has to pass through the property of C, B. So only persons who can buy his property are B, C, D, and E. So the value of this plot A is called accommodation value. Okay. So many times this such plot which is surrounded by uh, plots on all the four sides is called landlocked land. So the value of the landlocked land is much less than the value of the plots prevalent in that market. So accommodation value is a value assigned to a parcel of land that due to its shape or shape cannot be developed independently and is therefore more valuable to an adjacent property owner. That is accommodation value. Next is annual letting value or assessed value. So this is a value calculated by the local authorities for levy of property tax. So each and every local authorities, they have their own procedure of calculating the value for property taxes, for levy of property taxes, and the value they calculated, that is value is called annual letting value or assessed value. So this value is determined based upon several factors including value of comparable property in the area, the overall quality and condition of the property, its location and market conditions. Next is guideline rate. So this is a value used for calculating stamp duty to be paid for registration of property. So in each and every city, collectorate rates are fixed for the real estate properties by the collectorate, and based upon that rates, value of the property is calculated on the basis of which stamp duty is to be paid by the purchaser. So this is basically for calculating on the stamp duty. This is not a market value. It has nothing to do with the market value of the property. Next is special value. So special value, this is for a particular person. So let us suppose that a purchaser is may pay special price or fancy price for a flat only because it is close to his workplace or as well as to his children's school. So though the market price is not much, but he is ready to pay higher price or a special price. Why? Because that flat is close to his place of work as well as close to his children's school. So the price is paid for that particular property by that particular person which is in dire need of buying that property, that is called special value. Then fancy value. So see fancy value. Fancy value, this is again same that let us suppose that a property is on Mr. A is having a property, its size is 50 square yard, and then in its vicinity a plot of 75 square yard is being sold by Mr. B. Now Mr. A will be ready to pay higher price than the market price because he will be having his he will combine the both the properties, and his property will now will be of 125 square yard, and which will be more useful for him. So he will be ready to pay extra sum. So the extra sum he is prepared to pay is called fancy value. Next, value in use. This is for a particular asset. Let us suppose that a machine is used in a factory. So now this machine or asset is useful for that particular industry. So let us suppose if this machine is taken to another place, so it will not have the same price because its value is because it is being used for that particular industry, and if it is moved to some other place it will not fetch the same price. So this the uh, value of this asset is because of its particular use. That value is called value in use for a specific use or particular owner. Then next is monopoly value. So in a developed colony, the value of the plots goes on increasing when the number of available plots goes on decreasing. So let us suppose that in a developed colony, all the plots have been sold. Only two plots are there which are to be sold. So now the owner of these plots will have some monopoly because number of plots for sale are only two. So in such cases, the they will be they will sell the property at a higher price because they have the monopoly. So the value they get, that is called monopoly value. So value in place. So value in place refers to the market value of an improvement or asset as it exists in its current location or condition rather than its value where it were to be moved or used elsewhere. So that is called value in place. For example, in a manufacturing plant with specialized equipment installed, the value in place would consider the value of this equipment is currently installed in and operational within the plant. If the equipment were to be moved, the value might decrease due to the cost and potential inefficiencies associated with the relocation. Next is depreciation value. So depreciation value as a value that is a value reduction in the value of the property due to age, deterioration and lack of maintenance, obsolescence, decay, wear and tear, etc. So, the value of the property of an asset decreases with the passage of time, with the passage of with the passage of age, deterioration and lack of maintenance. And as a value, what is depreciation. And then next is present value. It is current value of future sum of money or stream of cash flows given a specified rate of return. So this is basically used in case of discount cash flow method. In discount cash flow method, what we do, we calculate the present value of the future income at a specified rate of return. That is called present value of the property. Next is value of going concern. So this is basically related with going concern. Going concerns, it refers to the value of price that takes income from both the real estate and the associated building into account. So in case of proof appraisals involving the value of a going concern are commonly used when the market value of real estate and business are difficult to segregate. So such an appraisal is of such as appraisal in case of bowling alleys, hotels, automobile dealership, etc. So when you calculate the value in such value of such properties, so we call that value of going concern. In case where the you cannot segregate the real estate and the business, they are integrated. The value has to be calculated integrally. Then we call that we have calculated the value of a going concern. So some restaurant will also include non-reality components when they change hands, which means that value indicated by sale price of restaurant would be greater than the underlying value of the real estate. Here some other values will also be included, such as brand value, etc. Next is intrinsic value. So in India, the there are two types of values. One is intrinsic value and other one is agreement value. So let us suppose a property is purchased at rupees 40 lakh and the agreement is made for 25 lakh to save stamp duty. So this 40 lakh is actual purchase price and intrinsic value, and 25 lakh is recorded purchase price or agreement value. So actual purchase price or intrinsic value. So 40 lakh is actual price or intrinsic value and 25 lakh is recorded purchase price or agreement value. So this is intrinsic value. So next is book value of immovable property. So in case of companies, The book value of immovable property such as real estate is the value of the property as recorded on the balance sheets. So basically it is the written, it is also called written down value of the property. So first, when the property is purchased, then it is entered into the books of account. Then that is original purchase cost. This is the purchase price paid to acquire the property. And then every year depreciation is applied over this original purchase price. Then let us suppose after 10 years some depreciation will be accumulated and the property's value will be original price minus accumulated depreciation up to that year. So that is book value of the property which is written in the books of accounts or balance sheet of the company. This is also called written down value. So written down value of the property arrived after accounting for the year to year depreciation. So when no revaluation of asset is done in any previous year, the written down value will be same as book value. So sometimes book value is also called written down value. Next is potential value. Next is potential value. So potential value is basically based upon the concept of highest and best use. Maybe some property, if it is not put to its best, highest and best use, and if the, let us suppose for example, if a residential building is there in a commercial zone where all the other properties are of commercial use and it can also be put to a commercial use, then the difference between the price it will fetch if it is put to its highest and best use, that is called potential value. So for example, consider a piece of land in a prime commercial locality capable of being put to use as a posh shop, which may presently have an old residential single story structure. So that is called potential value. So we will discuss this highest and best use in the coming slides. As of now, we should understand that if the property is not put up to its highest and best use and it can be put to its highest and best use, then the difference in the value it will fetch above the existing use, that is called potential value. Then national value. So national value may be applied in different ways. It may be in the form of notional rent. This refers to the hypothetical rent that a property could generate if it were leased out, even if it's currently you is it is owner occupied. Sometimes you may not have to use the term national rent when you are doing valuation of owner occupied properties. So that is called notional rent. So property is actually owner occupied. Then for development, in case of development project, so that is the value for large real estate projects. The notional value might represent the estimated total value of the project on completion. That is called notional value in case of development project. So it is estimated total value of the project upon its completion. And then for valuation for insurance, so this value can also be used to estimate the replacement cost of a property for insurance purposes. So in this case, what we do, we assume that the cost while building is to be rebuilt from the scratch, which might be differ from the market value. Then it is a cost to rebuild the property from scratch, which may be different from the market value. Next, for notional value from investment analysis point of view. So in some investment analysis, notional value may be used to estimate the total value controlled by a real estate investment, especially when leveraging is involved. Next, social value in real estate. So social value in real estate, it depends on different components. So it is an enabler of inclusive and sustainable development. So its social value is derived from the use of land and property. So if the project includes the following, it will definitely have more value. See what things are included in the social value. First thing is community well-being. So the projects which enhance quality of life for local residents, such as affordable housing and public spaces, if this is included, the value will be increased. Second thing is economic opportunities. So development that creates jobs and stimulates local economics, that will include, that will increase the value of the assets. Then inclusivity and equity, ensuring that developments are accessible and beneficial to diverse population, addressing issues like affordable housing and spatial and social equity. Then environmental sustainability, projects that incorporate green building practices and contribute to environmental health, they increase the value of the property. Then health and well-being, real estate that promotes physical and mental health through design and amenities. So if these things, if all or any of these things are included in the real estate development, that will increase the value. The project will definitely have more value. Legal value in real estate, the fair market value of a property is also called legal value of the property, which you have already discussed. We have already discussed that this is the price at which the property will change hands between a willing buyer and a willing seller, both having reasonable knowledge of relevant facts and neither being under any compulsion to buy and sell. So this is crucial for various legal contexts such as property taxation, divorce settlements, and estate planning, etc. So basically, fair market value is also a legal value which may be used in certain legal contexts such as taxation, divorce settlement, and estate planning, etc. That earning value next. The value, it is the amount that a property can fetch as a regular periodical income. So the income which the property can fetch, that is earning value of the property. Then public interest value. So public interest value, it refers to the value assigned to the properties based on their importance to the community or society rather than their market value. For example, a historical building might have a high public interest value due to its cultural significance, even if it does not generate significant rental income. Similarly, the land set aside for conservation might be valued for its environmental benefits rather than its potential for development. So that is public interest value. Then nuisance value. So nuisance value refers to the impact that certain activities or conditions can have on the enjoyment and value of the property. So it may be of two types. One is private nuisance. Second is public nuisance. So basically, it is the effect which determines whether it is private or public. If the nuisance affects an individual's enjoyment of the property, then it is called private nuisance. For example, if a neighbor's loud music prevents you from enjoying your home, that is private nuisance. But if it affects the health, safety, and comfort of the public at large, then it is called public nuisance. For instance, if factory emitting harmful pollutants in the air. Then insurance value. So basically the value of the building for which the building is insured. So basically we only take the superstructure part of the building in consideration for calculating the insurance value. Substructure part and foundation part or the land value is not taken into consideration for calculating the insurance value. then hope value or speculative value. Sometimes the investors buy properties so so that they are able to sell them at a higher price at a later stage. They hope that the property prices will increase due to certain reason. That additional value which they will get, that is called hope value or speculative value. It may be due to changes in the government policies, or it may be due to certain other reasons that the property values are enhanced, and that enhancement is called hope value or speculative value. It may or may not be that the property is able to achieve the higher value, but that is why it is called hope value or speculative value. Next is mortgage lending value. You must understand this is the most important thing for a value because you have to do valuation for the banking, where you have to find out this mortgage lending value. The value of immovable property as determined by a prudent assessment of the future market value of the property, taking into account a long-term sustainable aspects of the property. Well, when you calculate the value of the property for banking purpose, so they give loan to the land person by mortgaging this property. Now, if this account turns non-performing asset in future, then your value will be considered, and it will check whether it matches the market value or not. So it is the basic thing is that future marketability is considered. Future marketability of the property is taken into account, and then again thing is long-term sustainable aspects of the property. These two things are considered in mortgage lending value. So it is a value at risk approach to manage the risk exposure of the credit institution, taking into account special safety requirement. So it is specially applied to the valuation of real estate for funding purposes. So MLV is understood by banking supervisor as a risk management tool where only long-term sustainable aspects of the property and no speculative elements shall be taken into account. So here only long-term sustainable aspects of the property will be taken into account and no speculative elements. See here, this term is very important. Shall be taken into account. Next is replacement cost. There are two things. One is replacement cost and other is reproduction cost value. And the reproduction cost, in case of reproduction cost, when you calculate the value, first thing you assume that you are reconstructing the building. See here, these buildings are similar, but here their design may be different, their material may be different, their construction type may be different, but the utility thing is that its utility should be same. For example, let us suppose we have this wall AB in a building. This is a partition wall. It was first when the building was constructed, it was made up of mud mortar with plastering on both the sides. But now you have constructed a wall, same wall with cement mortar without plastering on both the sides. Now see, though the construction is different, material is different, but its use is same. It has the same use what the this wall AB was doing. So we say that we have replaced the wall AB. So the cost of constructing this wall AB will be called replacement cost. Means utility remains the same, but the design, material, or other things may be different depending upon the condition. But if we make a mirror image or exact replica of the same building, see here, then it is called a reproduction cost. It refers to the cost of constructing an exact duplicate of the property. See here, same material and design as the original. based on current cost of construction. It is called reproduction value. So this value is generally used in property appraisals and insurance to determine the value of a property if it were to be rebuilt exactly as it was. Next is asking price. So this asking price is basically the price set by a seller for their property. For example, house, apartment or land. So it is based upon the seller's expectations, may be influenced by a seller's personal circumstances, for example, urgent sales. So not necessarily reflective of property's true market value. So market value we have already discussed what is market value. So this is the actual price that would be at which the property would be sell in the current market. It is calculated by demand and supply and typically is assessed by experts like appraisers. But here it is a see here it is a price set by the seller. It has nothing to do with the other conditions as per determining the market value of the property. Next thing is basic elements in real estate. So there are four elements of value in real estate. Elements of value in real estate. They are scarcity, transferability, utility, and demand. So scarcity, land and buildings are of course scarce in market. So this refers to the limited availability of property. So for example, a beachfront property is more valuable because such locations are limited. So similarly, then transferability. This is the ease with which the ownership rights can be transferred from one person to another person. That is called transferability. So if the property have clear titles and fewer legal hurdles, it increases the property's value. Then utility. So this is usefulness of the property. Now, for whom this usefulness of the property? The that of buyer. It is usefulness of the property for a particular buyer in satisfying the needs and desires of the potential owners. So property that meets better needs of the buyers are more valuable. So it depends upon the zoning of the property, for example, commercial zone and other things as far as utility is concerned. Then demand. So this is the desire of ownership supported by financial means to satisfy the desire. Higher demand for property typically increases its value. So these elements interact to form the value of a property. How these different elements of value interact with each other. So this is very important that how these you have to analyze the stud elements that are essential to determining the value. For example, let us consider scarcity. So scarcity is present or anticipated supply of property in relation to its demand for it. And utility creates demand. See here this thing, utility creates demand, but a demand to be effective must be implemented by purchasing power. Otherwise, a person desiring a property cannot acquire it. Let us suppose you desire to buy a BWM car, but you do not have the means or you do not have the enough money to buy that BMW car. So now you have the demand, but you do must have the purchasing power also. Otherwise, a person desiring a property cannot acquire it. So the real estate cycles cause fluctuation in four elements of value. For example, when interest rates are increased, fewer buyers are able to qualify for loans. This in turn reduces demand for the real estate. So this may lead to an oversupply of property for sale. So this is how the different elements of value interact with each other. Next is factors affecting land value. What are the factors that affect the value of a land? First thing is location. So location, if the property, it depends on proximity to the amenities. If the property is close to the schools, hospitals, shopping centers, and public transportation, tends to be more valuable. So next, location. As far as the location is concerned, neighborhood quality. Areas with low crime rates, good schools, and well-maintained properties are more desirable. Then size and shape. If the the larger plots generally have lower value and smaller plots have higher value. And shape. So regular size of property and will fetch more value instead of irregular shape size of the property. Then zoning laws. All zoning laws affect the value. So first is permissible use. So if the property is used, can be used for any purpose, commercial, industrial, residential, so it will have more value. But if its use is restricted, that it cannot be used for any other purpose rather than commercial or industrial or residential, then it will have less value. Then future development plans. So planned infrastructure projects or changes in zoning law can increase the land value. Then market trends. What are the market trends at present when you are doing valuation? Supply and demand. So high demand and low supply in a particular area will increase the value of the property. And economic conditions, if economic growth, interest rates, and inflation, it can also impact the land values. Then environmental conditions. So environmental condition, first thing is soil quality. So fertile soil is important for agricultural land, for example. Similarly, the land which is having good bearing capacity, that is good for development projects. Then flood risk. If land areas prone to area may be less valuable. Climate. Favorable climate conditions can enhance the land value. Next is accessibility. So if the property is provided with good transportation links, easy access to highways, airports, and public transport can increase the land value. And if availability of utilities like water, electricity, and sewerage system, it is crucial. If this infrastructure is available, it will increase the land value. Then topography of the value. So land elevation, elevated lands with good drainage is often more valuable. And scenic view. In topographic also, this scenic view is important. If land with attractive views, ocean, mountains can command higher prices. Legal factors. So properties with clear titles will have more value, are more valuable. If there are some land use restrictions such as easement, convenience, and other restrictions, they can affect the land value. So we have to determine all these factors can be divided into various categories like physical, economic, legal, and social. So now we have discussed these factors. We can divide them into physical, economic, and legal and social factors. So under physical category, the factors like location, condition, size, and layout, environmental, they are all comes under the heading of or under the category of physical factor. And then economic factors such as market trends, interest rates, economic health, and development, they comes under the heading of economic factors. And legal factors such as zoning laws, property taxes, building codes, ownership rights, they comes under the category of legal factors. And social factors such as demographics, community, lifestyle trends, cultural trends, they comes under social factors. So we discuss here social factors, and all these factors we have already considered. So last social factors we will discuss it here. Demographic means age, income, and population growth in the area also affect the value of the property. Community, quality of local schools, crime rates, and neighborhood Lifestyle trends preferences were for urban versus suburban living. Then cultural factors such as historical significance and cultural amenities also affect the value of the properties. Next, effect of urban infrastructure on the value of real estate. So first thing we have to consider what is urban infrastructure, and then we have to consider how it influences the value of real estate. First thing, we have already considered these things, but we will discuss it from the point of urban infrastructure. First, accessibility and connectivities. So places become more accessible with the construction of new roads, highways, public transportation. So what it does, it cut down the travel time and improves residents' convenience. So, thereby providing greater accessibility, frequently raises the value of real estate. So, first thing, as far as urban infrastructure is concerned, first is accessibility and connectivity. Second thing is improvement to the quality of life. Community credits, community centers, parks, and other recreational spaces are examples of infrastructure projects that can greatly raise the standard of living of neighborhood and thereby increases the value of the properties in that area. Then economic growth. So investment in infrastructures can stimulate economic growth, thereby attracting more business and creating more jobs. So property price values may rise as a result of this economic activity due to an increase in demand for both residential and commercial properties. Then sustainability and smart cities. These days this smart city concept is the most important. Government of India has sanctioned a number of smart cities in all the states. So in smart cities are in sustainability, things like high speed internets and renewable sources are two examples of smart and sustainable technologies that are frequently included in new infrastructure development. So these things will might raise the value of the property. Then mixed use development. So if mixed use development means the property can be developed for residential, commercial, and recreational, and combining residential, commercial, and recreational spaces, they create vibrant communities. So these areas can have higher property value due to convenience and lifestyle benefits they offer. Then last thing is risk mitigation. In a emerging market, the impact of infrastructure on property values can be influenced by certainty of the project completions. If the developers are able to complete their project within stipulated times, so they will reduce the risk and will increase the values. But in case of projects that face delays or funding issues may not immediately boost property values until there is more certainty around their completion. Next is real property. What is real property? So real property is land and any property attached directly to it. So it is land and any property attached directly to it, including any subset of land that has been improved through legal human action. Example of real property includes buildings, ponds, canals, roads, and machinery, among other things. So, in land law, where the term is most commonly used, real property also entails right to use, control, and disposition of the land and its attached object. So, you must remember it is not only the building but ponds, canals, roads, and machinery also comes under real property. But we most of the time we use the real property terms in case of right to of use, control, disposition of land, and its o- attached objects. Then type of ownerships in the property. So what the first type is possession. It means the right to live on and utilize the land. Then control, the authority to decide within bounds of law how the property is to be utilized. Exclusion means the authority to bar others from using the property. Enjoyment Enjoyment means the freedom to make any lawful use of the property. Disposition means authority to transfer, sell, or lease the asset. So when you buy a property means you buy a bundle of rights. So in case of freehold property, you have all these rights in the property. But when you lease the property, you may have a certain may you should cannot have all the rights. You may have certain rights over the property out of these five things. Then different types of ownership interest. First is sole ownership. If all the rights are in the properties are owned by an individual, then we call it as sole ownership. Now there are two things here. One is joint tenancy and other is tenancy in common. Joint tenancy, this type of a property ownership gives two or more people having equal share and survivorship rights. See here it is equal shares and survivorship rights. But in case of tenancy in common, individual shares held by several owners are transferable and may be unequal. Then community property. In certain legal system, a married couple can own jointly any property earned during their marriage. Then trust. An entity holds the property on behalf of other, that is called trust. Then in certain there are other certain rights other than these what we have discussed here. First is easement right, the permission to utilize someone else's land for certain use like a driveway for utility line or utility land, that is called easement. Leases, the permission to use and occupy real estate for a predetermined amount of time subject to restrictions. Then mortgage, a lender's interest in a property as a security for a loan. So these are the additional interests other than the interest we have already discussed. Then types of occupancy in real estate. Occupancy, first is primary residence, the residence where you live most of the time, that is called primary residence, in which you live most of the year. So it is often eligible for must got mortgage rates and is usually the address of their on their drivers or Aadhaar card license. Second home, this refers to the property such as vacation house where the owner resides for a portion of the year. It may be completely under the owner's control and not subjected to timeshare contracts. In investment property, there are certain homes which are bought with the intention of renting them out or selling them at a later stage. That is called investment property. These properties are not occupied by the owner. The seasonal occupancy, occupied only during the specific time of the year, such as summer or winter. Then right of occupancy. This allow an individual to live in a property until they used to live, often seen in agreements after the death of a spouse. That is right of occupancy. Then life estate. This is a legal agreement in which landowner gives an heir ownership of the property but keeps the right to occupy it for the rest of their lives. Next thing is highest and best use. So this is the most important concept in valuation. So it is fundamental in real estate appraisal. It- what is highest and best use? It refers to the most profitable, legally permissible, physically possible, and financially feasible use of a property that results in its highest value. So we have already discussed that if a property, if a residential building is there in a commercial area where in its vicinity all other properties are of commercial use, and if we are able to put it into commercial use, what are the conditions that it is legally permissible, that it is in a commercial zone, it must be in a commercial zone, we should be able to construct the commercial building as per building bylaws. Second thing, it is physical possible. Physical possible means its size, shape, and topography should be such that it can be converted into commercial use. Then financially feasible. So it is that the use must generate enough revenue to justify the cost of development, because you have to change its building. So you have to develop it in a new building. So you might have to spend a lot of money, and it should justify that the revenue generated, it should meet the cost of development. Then maximally productive. The use must yield the highest net return compared to other potential uses. So that is highest and best use. So for highest and best use, for converting a building into its highest and best use, these four things you have to consider: that whether it is legally permissible, physically possible, financially feasible, and whether it will result in a maximally productive or not. For example, if a piece of land is currently used as a agricultural but could be developed into a residential area that meet all the four criteria, see here, it meets all the four criteria, then the residential development would be considered as the highest and best use. Next, characteristics of real estate, that is most important. First thing is scarcity. So we know there is limited supply of real estate. So prices may increase due to limited supply of land and properties in prime location. Second thing is improvements. So market changes to making changes to a property, including rebuilding and remodeling a new structure, can have impact of value. Many times you buy a property and you rebuild it to convert it into a better building, and then you sell it to have more selling price. That is improvements. Then location. So that is important thing in every valuation. A property's location is very important. Property's value can be significantly impacted by an area's proximity to services, schools, transit, and job hubs. Then improve investment preference. So long-term investments are common in real estates. Real estates can be a reliable asset due to investment in investments permanence. And uniqueness. That is the important thing. These three things: uniqueness, immovability, and indestructibility. These are the things which only real estate can have. Uniqueness means real estate is a diverse market because every property is different in terms of its features, locations, and architectural style, which is not available in other types of investment. Second thing is immovability. So you cannot take a plot in a village to a city to have more value. So it is immovable. So a building or a plot cannot be moved. Real estate is immobile. So this feature highlights how crucial location is. Then indestructibility. Although structure may decay, land is unbreakable and always a valued asset. Then what are the factors that influence the real estate markets? First thing is demographics. So age, income, and migration patterns. These are the factors which affect the population's composition and might affect real estate trends. For instance, the need for retirement community may rise as the population ages. Then interest rates, higher the interest rate, lower will be the demand. Lower the interest rate, higher will be the demand. So that is important thing in case of real estate sector. Then of course supply and demand. So the equilibrium between the number of properties up for grabs and the number of purchaser influence markets circumstances. So a buyer's market is produced by a high supply and low demand, whereas seller's market is produced by a low supply and high demand. Then economic conditions. So real estate market can be impacted by the situation of the economy as a whole, including GDP growth and employment rates. So a robust economy usually increases the demand for real estate. Then of course government policies. Tax incentives, subsidies and regulations can either stimulate or hinder the real estate investment development. Then how you can invest in a real estate? What are the types of investment in real estate? First type is rental property. You can acquire real estate for rental purposes and can result in a reliable source of income. But managing tenants and doing upkeep are duties that come with owning a property. Then you can invest in real estate investment trust. So, if, what are these RIETs? REITs, companies that own, manage, and are financial estates that generates revenue are known as real estate investment trust. You can get dividends by investing in REITs without having actually own or oversee the real estate. Next is house flipping. So house flipping means you purchase houses that are undervalued, make necessary changes or renovations in them, and then resell them for a profit. That is called house flipping. But for that you must have solid grasp of the real estate market and have the potential to be very profitable, but it is also dangerous. You have to take some risk in this case. Next is crowdfunding platforms. To finance real estate development, these platforms combine the contribution of several individuals. So these can yield substantial profit and give a more hands-on approach. But they are frequently have longer investment terms and larger minimum investment. Then you can invest in real estate mutual funds and exchange traded funds. So investing in diverse portfolio of real estate assets gives investors exposure to real estate market at a lower risk than buying a real estate directly. So this is how you can invest in real estate. Then what are the factors that affect the demand of real estate? First thing is economic growth. If the economic growth of that area for that country is good, then people will have more disposable income, which increases the demand for real estate. Interest rates, so we have already discussed lower interest rate, higher demand, higher interest rate, lower demand. Demographics, so population growth, migration patterns, and generational housing preferences significantly impact demand. Then consumer confidence. When the people feel confident about their financial future, means this is directly related with economic growth, they are more likely to invest in real estate. Then government policies, we have already discussed that incentives like tax breaks, subsidies, and grants can boost demand. Then what are the factors that influence the supply of real estate? Construction cost. So high cost of material and labor can limit the number of new properties, and lower cost of material and labor can increase the number of new properties. Then availability of land. If land is available that can be developed into housing, that will increase the supply of real estate. So the availability of land development can restrict or expand the supply of real estate. Then government regulations such as zoning law, building codes, and other regulations, they can either facilitate or hinder the new constructions. Then technological investment. So with the innovations in construction technology, it can reduce the cost and time of construction, thereby increasing the supply of real estate. Then of course economic conditions. A strong economy can lead to more investment in real estate development, thereby increasing the supply of real estate. And then the last thing is green building concept. So now it is a very large cons- things are involved in green building concept. We will be concentrating only certain part of it which is important from IBBI examination point of view. So, what is green building? Green building is a holistic approach to construction and development that aims to minimizing import. This is the thing. Minimizing environmental impact and enhance the health and well-being of occupants. So, some of the key concept of green building: sustainable site selections. So selections, if you select sites with lower environmental impact, such as avoiding floodplains and protecting natural habitats. Then energy efficiency, using design and technology to reduce energy consumption. Water efficiency, providing rainwater harvesting system, water saving fixtures in kitchens and bathrooms, grey water recycling to minimize water uses. Then indoor environmental quality, ensuring good air quality, natural living and thermal comfort to improve occupants' health and productivity. Then material efficiency, you may have to use sustainable, recycled and locally sourced material to reduce the environmental footprint of construction. Then next last thing is waste reduction. So for green building, you have to put strategies in place to reduce, reuse and recycle construction and demolition waste. So this is all about valuation of real estate. So please like, share and comment on video. Subscribe our channel www.youtube.com at Values Club 07 for more educational videos on valuation and other related videos. Of course, all these videos are free of cost. And if you have any suggestion, please comment. Your suggestions are always welcome. Thank you. Have a nice day.